How to start a podcast for free on Spotify. Well, listening to your question, how to start a podcast for free on Spotify, it's actually two questions. How to start a podcast for free and how to start a podcast on Spotify. It's actually a very distinct difference. They really don't run together too well, so I'm going to separate those two and you're going to see the critical meaning behind them. By the end of this video, you're going to see how to get your podcast recorded and then edited. You'll have an idea of what to look for when you upload your podcast. And you'll be relieved to know that when you upload your episode once, you won't have to do it 50 times for all the places that play back. I'll show you in just a second. I'm Nic Natarella with AdWise Creative. Let's talk about that first part of the question, how to produce a podcast for free. Let's talk about that first. On the production side, the recording, yeah, you can do that for free. You could probably do that on your smartphone, whether it's Android or iPhone. You can record audio on your smartphone. Now, it's not the best audio quality, but it can get it done. I would strongly suggest you start off by saving up a few bucks and getting a microphone specifically for podcasting. There are several of them out there. There are a whole bunch of them. Anything from Yeti makes a whole bunch of them. Rode makes a bunch of them. Those are brand names. And they've got several different makes and models below that. Some of them plug straight into your computer. You can simply fire up the computer, plug in the microphone into a USB jack, hit record on your software, which I'll go over next, and then you've got your audio recorded. Now, production-wise, for the recording side of it, there are several pieces out there that you can use. Some of them are paid for, some of them are subscription. There's one in particular that is on everybody's lips that's ever done any type of recording and podcasting, and that is Audacity. Audacity has been a free open source recording software, recording and multi-track editor for decades. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do with it. It's got a whole bunch of features built into it. Not to mention, yeah, you can step out of that realm and start by what they call plugins. Those are extras that can help you manipulate the sound, whether it's an EQ plugin or a compression plugin or a reverb or an echo or something along those lines. Those are all things that, yeah, you can spend extra on and add to the program, but the stuff that's actually built into Audacity is already very, very powerful and a really great nonlinear multi-track editor. It's a really good piece of equipment. And it's free. What a great place to start, right? Now let's say you're going to do not just the talking head style or not just the giving your opinion or reporting the news or something like that, but let's say you're going to get into the podcast where it's you and a guest, or maybe you and a co-host, or maybe you, a co-host and a guest. That you're going to need a couple extra microphones because trying to get everybody coordinated on their own individual smartphone and then trying to bring those together. Again, it's not the best sound quality, but it can be done. It's kind of difficult. Also, what happens if everybody's in a different, complete and total different location? Like, let's say you and the co-host are at the office, but yet your guest is 4, 6, 8, 10 states away. That gets a little tricky. There you might have to make a small investment. There are some programs like Riverside.fm or Zoom even. There's a free version of Zoom, sure. There is a time limit to that, so you have to make sure to get your episodes done before that meeting time's out. But if you do a subscription, if you go ahead and pay for it, which is a very nominal fee, you can go for as long as you want. Let's say you're going to do 60-minute episodes. You're probably going to record an hour and 15, an hour and 30 to get an hour-long episode. So yeah, you would need that extra time. That is covered in the subscription. It would not be for the free version. If you're just doing a 15 to 30-minute episode, that I think you could probably get that done no problem with the free version. And it's funny to think about this, but all this audio production, you're going to need graphics to go with it. Before anybody can press play, they got to see your logo and they want to see a little something about this particular episode. Well, your logo is going to be consistent. Once you get that developed, that's going to be set. For each one of your episodes, you might want to have a different graphic, let's say based on your logo colors, and maybe if you do have a guest, maybe your guest picture in that particular teaser. You're going to use those I just gave it away. You're going to use those as teasers to promote every single episode. So little things like that. So how do you do the graphics? I am not a graphics person, but I can click my way around Canva like the best of them. I can crank out some halfway decent stuff on Canva, no problem. And there is a free version of Canva. And I've gotten to the point where I can even, anybody from Canva listening? I've even gotten to the point where I can duplicate the paid stuff myself. That looks really good. So if you can do some of those things for your episodes or for your logo, so much the better. You know, you can also hire somebody. There are tons of websites where you can hire somebody to do a logo for you for a couple bucks, maybe even make a YouTube thumbnail, or maybe even do your episode, your podcast episode teaser. A couple bucks, no problem. So there could be a small investment, or you could do it yourself with a free subscription to Canva. So now let's talk about the second half of your question. How do I start a podcast on Spotify? Actually, let's take that Spotify and put in any other provider that you can think of, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of the others that are out there. What you're really looking for is a podcast host. Think of it as like your website, an audio website. Maybe you've signed up with HostGator, or maybe you've signed up with Bluehost, or any of these other places where your website, the data is actually stored. Now anybody and everybody uses either Microsoft Edge or Chrome or any of the browsers, Safari, whatever it is, uses a browser to go see your website, or display your website would actually be a better analogy. So the display is happening in their browser, but your website is actually stored at that host. The same thing happens with your podcast. You are going to have to invest a little bit into a host. Now, there are a few hosts that do a free sample. Those are typically very short episodes. Let's say they have a 60-minute time limit for the month. So if you're going to be looking at, say, 4 episodes for the month, you're really looking at only 15 minutes for an episode. So when you put those up there, and then the other caveat to that is they limit the storage to an hour. In other words, yes, you're looking at 15 minutes an episode, but that would be 4 episodes. When you do number 5, number 1 gets deleted. When you do number 6, number 2 gets deleted. Because now you're only looking at a consistent 4 being up there. Now, if you're looking at something where you want some longevity and you need some archives that are accessible for new people to listen to go back and listen to, yeah, they'll get you in the door, but boy, oh boy, you're going to end up paying for a subscription here really quickly. The good news is most of these subscriptions are anywhere between $10 and $25 a month. It's very easy to do. Yeah, there are a couple that are up in the $50 range. At that point, you're going to want to see what other ancillary services that they have along with it. For example, some of them have an editing software, a built-in editing software into their platform. Some of them have an editing software where it automatically gets transcribed and you just edit based on the words. So if you highlight this particular prepositional phrase and hit delete, it will delete that in the recording. Very simple way to do it. It's pretty accurate. Every once in a while you'll hear a glitch after the edit, but most of the time you won't even notice. So you've got little services like that. So what happens is you upload your episode to the host. It is the host then that ends up distributing it to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Anchor or Riverside or all the other aggregators that play. Now, it's probably going to be up to you to make the connection. In fact, I know Apple, you need to have a place for it to land first. You've got your host, you've got your Apple part that you've signed up for, and again, that's free. You just need to connect the dots for it. And then once you upload here, it automatically ends up over here. So you're really not making a podcast for Spotify, per se. It'll show up there. Well, you want it to show up there because Apple's the number 1 right now. Spotify is a close second and they're gaining ground. They haven't taken over the top spot yet. But right now the phrase is, if you want to win in the podcast world, win Apple, and you've got it from there. So you want to focus on your host. And then you'll see, just follow the host's instructions on how to get your podcast to Spotify. That's the way to think about it. Make sense? Good. So if all that makes sense, I have a free gift for you. Before you can even start to talk to your audience, you need to know how to talk to your audience. And I've got a free PDF for you called Engaging Your Audience, the 3 secrets to skyrocketing your podcast success. So click below and you'll get your free copy within minutes. Engaging Your Audience. Click below now. I'm Nic Natarella with AdWise Creative. Thank you for watching.